In this video, I'm going to show you some exercises that you can work on to help you develop more control over all of your shots. Now, it's going to be a little bit different to what you're expecting because I'm not going to show you something specific that you can work on to do with your forehand or backhand, because you've probably already watched hundreds, if not thousands of those videos, and it's got you to where it's got you. So it's very unlikely that one more of those videos is going to make a big difference for you, because at the end of the day, the level of control that you can get over your shots comes down to your level of coordination. The more coordinated you are, the better your control will be. So I'm going to show you an assessment to help you identify how much of an issue this is, and then a couple of different training exercises so that you can start to improve your coordination, because once you do that, then you'll be able to get more control over all of your shots and you'll be able to learn technique more easily. So hopefully you find the video helpful. If you do, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it always helps me out if you could do that as well. So I'm going to show you the assessment first, and when I show you it, you are going to be completely underwhelmed and think it's not very exciting. So that's why I'm then going to explain why it is such a really big deal. The assessment is called Rapid Alternating Pronation and Supination. So you are going to be doing this movement as fast as you can. It's an assessment for a specific part of the brain called the cerebellum, which is responsible for coordinating movements. We're going to do it on the right side, and we're going to do it on the left side, and I'm going to show you how to do it properly in a moment. But first, I want to explain why this is such a big deal. Firstly, it's assessing the part of the brain that coordinates movement, but the movements it's coordinating are especially important. So it's forearm, hand, wrist movement, this and this, supination and pronation. Pronation, if you're familiar with biomechanics, is what you do to create topspin on your forehand. It's what you do to control the angle of your racket face at contact on your forehand. So your ability to pronate accurately and at speed is really important for your ability to control your forehand. Pronation is also what you do as you make contact with your serve. It's what gives you the power and what controls the direction of the ball. So your ability to pronate accurately and at speed on the serve is also really important. Supination is what you do to control the angle of the racket face and to create a lot of the topspin on a one-handed backhand. If you've got a two-handed backhand, my right hand is going to be supinating on contact, my left hand is going to be pronating on contact. So your ability to do these movements accurately and quickly is important for all of your shots. But as I said, we're assessing a part of the brain as well. So it's just a really important assessment to tell you what's going on. So the assessment looks like this. I'm going to be hitting the palm of my hand, and you've got to follow the instructions properly to get the most out of this assessment. I find no matter how many times I try and explain this to people, most people do it wrong. So you might want to watch this video a couple of times, and you might want to record yourself doing it to see what you're actually doing, because a lot of people don't have good body awareness, but that's one of the things that we're working on. So the assessment, I'm hitting the palm of the hand. I'm hitting it with the front and back of my other hand. So this is my working hand at the moment. I'm trying to hit the palm of my left hand with the front and the back of my right hand, like so. And when I do this, you can see that I'm not hitting the fingers, I'm not hitting the wrist, I'm hitting the front and back, or I'm hitting the same spot on the palm of my hand. These fingers are close together. You can also see that my elbow is staying still. So I'm keeping this elbow still. What I'm not doing is this and this. I'm keeping my elbow tucked into the side, and I'm trying to do that as quickly as I can. Notice that this hand is staying flat. A lot of people try and cheat, so they do this and they flip-flop back and forth. You've got to keep this hand flat. So we're trying to do something that looks like that. You're trying to keep this arm still. It is going to move a little bit because I'm hitting it, so it's going to move, but I'm not doing this. So then in the end, the assessment looks something like this. I'm going to do it as fast and as accurately as I can. If you're doing it inaccurately, you might find your elbow moving, you might find yourself cheating, or you might find you hit the side of your hand. So we're going to do that on the right side, and then we're going to do it on the left side, exactly the same. And then we're going to compare the right side. Which one was faster? Which one was more accurate? Was there problems with both of them? And generally you want to do it maybe 3 times on the right. So do the right for 5 seconds. Rest for a moment. Do the left for 5 seconds. Rest for a moment. Switch back to the right. Do it for 5 seconds, switch back to the left. Do it for 5 seconds, because sometimes people start out okay for the first second and then things fall apart. But that is the assessment. Give it a go, see how you get on, record it, make sure that you're doing it properly, listen to those coaching points that I've just said to find out whether you're doing it accurately, and then it's normally pretty easy to see how quickly you're doing it. Before we look at the training exercises, I want to mention just one more thing about the assessments. A common mistake that players make is they do it with their right hand and it's okay, and then they do it with their left hand and the left hand's worse, and they go, yeah, my right hand's better than my left, I'm completely fine with this. And that is the wrong way to look at this. Firstly, you want to be able to do it really quickly and really accurately if you want to be able to play high level tennis. So even if you can do the right hand okay, you know, do you want to be okay at tennis or do you want to be much better at tennis? So there's always scope for improving things. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is you should be able to do this equally as well with your right and left. So just because you're right-handed, it's no excuse for having a really poorly coordinated left hand. If you want to think about just directly, then it's going to affect your ability to do the ball toss, but it means so much more than that. The part of the brain that helps to coordinate movement on the left side of the body is also really important for rotating to the left and controlling your spinal muscles on the left, so they're going to be important on all of your shots regardless of what hand you play with. So I just wanted to mention that quickly because it's a common mistake that players make. But now we've talked about that, let's move on to the training portion. And the wonderful thing about brain-based training is that the assessment is actually a training exercise as well. So the first thing that you can work on to try and improve this part of the brain and then to try and improve coordination in this area is more of it. You just do it over and over again. It helps to activate the brain. And for a lot of people, that can switch things on really quickly and it can start to make improvements. We're now going to move on to a different exercise, and I'm going to show you a basic variation and then a slightly more advanced variation. And again, it's going to be really important that you pay attention to the fine details and the coaching points. This exercise looks really simple, but I find literally 95% of the tennis players that I've done it with really struggle to do it well. So pay attention to the coaching points. We're going to be doing wrist flexion and extension. We're going to be doing some wrist lateral glides, and then we're going to be doing some wrist circles. And I'll break those down for you. Starting with the wrist flexion and extension, it's going to look like this. So we're going to start in a neutral position, and we could do this with individual hands or both together. I'm doing both together to save a bit of time. But we're going to start in a neutral position. So my forearms are pointing forwards. They're not pointing out, they're not pointing in. So you want to record yourself or do it in the mirror, and you might find that your arms are in like that. So you want them pointing forwards. The other thing about neutral is the wrists are going to be like that. So they shouldn't be like that, they shouldn't be like that, they should be neutral. I'm holding a gentle fist, so I'm not squeezing it hard, I'm just holding it gently. And then I'm going to do this. So I'm going to bend my wrists, but notice that my forearms are going up and my hands are pointing down. So I'm going from there to there. Then I'm going to go back to neutral. Then I'm going to go down and I'm going to extend my wrists. So I'm going to bend my hand back, but look at the angle of my forearms. I'm going from there to there. And then we're just going to move smoothly through that point. So each time I go through neutral. So it should look like that each time, then to there. And I'm just going to do that smoothly. So that's the first movement. I find a lot of people struggle with that movement. They end up doing something that looks like this rather than this, where the forearm is pointing up and the hand is pointing down. And then we go through neutral, and now the forearm is pointing down and the hand is bent back. So that's the first portion. Then we're going to do the same sort of thing, but lateral glides. So now I'm still going to go through neutral each time, but I'm going to be gliding in and out. So if I start in the middle, if I glide in, my forearm is now kind of moving inwards and my hand is pointing outwards a little bit. I'm going to go back to neutral, and then I'm going to do the opposite. So now my forearm is pointing out and my hand is pointing in. So I'm going to go laterally gliding like this, or radial and ulnar deviation while we're moving our forearm. And again, you want to make sure that you're actually doing it in the way that's intended rather than some strange movement, and you might need to watch the coaching points a few times. Then from there, we're going to go to wrist circles. And now we've basically done the top of the circle, we've done the bottom of the circle, we've done the inside of the circle, and we've done the outside of the circle. So we're going to join them together. I'm going to start at the top, then I'm going to go to the outside of the circle. So notice the position of the forearms and hands. I'm going to go to the bottom of the circle, Then I'm going to go to the inside of the circle and then to the top of the circle. And we're going to continue the circular motion like this. So I'm not thinking about making a circle with my hands. I'm thinking about the wrist joint itself making a circle through space. So before, everything was going through neutral. Now we're going around the outside of neutral. So I want to do that in one direction, and I want to do it smoothly going in the other direction. And you definitely want to do this and maybe record yourself to see what it looks like when you watch it back. So now we're going to move on to the more advanced variation, which is working on this at different speeds. So we're trying to be accurate with the movements like we've just done, but now we want to be able to do that quickly and slowly. And quickly isn't better. You need to be able to do it well in both formats, because you have to be able to adjust the speed of your movements on court depending on what you need to do. Sometimes you're going to hit with power, other times you need finesse. And I actually recommend starting with slow, getting good at that, and then working on going faster. So the first variation that we're going to do, we're going to count a certain speed ourselves. So I'm going to choose 4 seconds, and I'm going to do a wrist flexion extension that takes 4 seconds. So I'm going to start at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Making sure I keep the coaching points going through neutral each time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I could do that same thing with lateral glides. So I'm going to start from the inside. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can do the same thing with the wrist circle. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the first option that we've got, counting in our heads, but then we can also do it with a metronome, and it can be useful to practice to a metronome, because sometimes when you're playing tennis you have to choose your own rhythm and speed. So at the start, when I'm serving, I'm deciding on my rhythm and speed, so how quickly do I go into the ball toss. But then at other times during tennis, obviously the ball's coming towards you and you have to react to the external speed. So we're going to do that. I'm going to set this is on 60 beats per minute. This is just a metronome timer that makes a beeping sound, and do the same thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, but this is going to keep count for me. Same thing for the lateral glides. Same thing for the circle. And so on. So that's 4 seconds. We can play around with this and we can do various different speeds. So I could go much slower. I could maybe take 10 or 12 seconds for each of these movements. Seems a little bit slow and it can be a little bit frustrating to do, but it's a very powerful training exercise. Or I can work on faster speeds. So I understand that these exercises look very simple, but in working with hundreds and hundreds of players, I find that the vast majority of adult players really struggle with the assessment and with the training exercises. And it's really important for you to wrap your head around tennis being a skill-based sport. Yes, we've got tactics. Yes, we've got technique, but you are only going to be able to develop your technique and get control on your shots up to the level that your ability will allow. If you want to make significant jumps, you have to improve your ability. So that's the process of what we're starting here. Like I said earlier, doing this 5 times doesn't turn you into Djokovic. That's not the way it works. You're aiming to gradually improve your coordination and do good on-court practice, and that can help you to dramatically improve your level. Now, if you'd like to learn more about using brain-based training, I'm holding a free 5-day live Neuro Tennis Challenge pretty soon. This is an awesome 5-day event where I'm going to be teaching you how to use brain-based training to improve vision, to improve coordination, to do a lot of good stuff. I'll place a link to it down in the description, or you can go to neurotennis.net/challenge to register or to learn more and register. Okay, any questions about what I've talked about here, leave them down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.